The candles were looking good, and this is where I used to enter. It looks like we broke in structure to the downside, and we've got a 3-bar reversal. But really, price hadn't given us enough confirmation yet. We've got to look left and be sure we're in the right spot. When we look far left, we can see what we're missing. We are at the top of a zone. This could be 15-minute or 15-minute resistance, but we can also see that there's a supply area here that is a fresh zone. So before opening bell, we should have this mark. This is 15-minute supply. And then we would know that it's possible that since we have already bypassed this last high, that price could be reaching for this supply zone. So that's an idea that we can have in our minds as price is continuing. So in the past, I would have entered here. We've got 2 of our confirmations here that we need. We have a break of structure here, and we have our 3-bar reversal. 1, 2, 3. But when we look left, we can see that there's a supply zone right above, and we've already surpassed yesterday's high. So now we know that we need to make sure that all of our confirmations are in play, that we need to wait. We need to wait for a stronger confirmation, because look what happens. Price continues up towards that supply area, and this is where we get our 3-bar reversal. The first bar occurs at 9:40, the second is 9:45, and the third confirmation bar occurs at 9:50. And so we could enter into the trade here. Can look left to see where we should take profit. Could be here, could be our first area, and maybe the next area could be this, the middle of this imbalance here. Okay, let's see what happens. There we have a successful trade. Okay, and so let's review. So we noticed that this past Friday we had a very large drop. We know that sometimes there are orders left behind, so we know that at some point price is probably going to come back to this supply zone. And so here we go. We're going to use our path tool. We can see that we dropped here. We bounced. We came back up to this supply zone and then continued downward. Okay, and so that was the path of price action, and that gave us a nice trade on Tuesday. So if you caught this trade, leave a comment and let us know. Did you take any other trades this week? I wasn't able to catch much of anything else this week. Looks like there could have been another opportunity here. We do have another, we saw that price made another supply zone here. So that's another 15-minute supply right here at this area of support and resistance, or support turned resistance. And price did come back up here on Wednesday, so that could have been a possible trade as well. And there's our path of price action again. So a big drop. We know that price leaves orders behind, so it could have come back up to this area and then continued downward. We know Thursday was a rather rangy kind of day, and then also Friday was pretty range bound. During my trading time anyway, between 9:30 and 11:30 or 12, I kind of stayed in this area. And the same for Thursday and Friday. So we never really left. And when I say range bound, I mean we never really left this overnight area, the top and the bottom of this range here that occurred in this gray section. And so I have this gray section marked as it begins at midnight, which shows our Asian session, and then starts around 3 or 4 to show London. And so we really never left the boundaries of this area. And so when you can see that prices is kind of moving, staying in this area, you can also look at these EMA lines, how they're kind of just going straight across. You might be having more of a range bound day. And there are some range traders, but I'm not a range trader. So you got to, depending on what kind of trader you are, those would have been good days for you. All right, so I encourage you to back test and forward test NAS to consider all of these things that we've talked about, the EMA lines and the zones, be sure to look left. And be sure to wait for a full confirmation. And for instance, on this day, our confluences were that we tapped back into the zone. Say, we look left. Zones that are nearby that are good, solid 15-minute or 5-minute supply zones. Okay. And so we tapped back into the zone. We noticed we were trading below the EMAs. Another note is that the EMAs are not going straight across. They're not just going sideways. This is not a range day. And so that's our kind of trading. If you are a break and retest trader, we notice there is some liquidity below. There's plenty of liquidity here, lots of wicks. And there was this area of imbalance that we were targeting. And so we've got 4 confluences here. So you want to have at least that many when you're trading. One of the most important confluences is, though, that we are in the right location, and that's where this tapped back into the 15-minute supply area. That's where that comes in. That's very important. We talked about how if we entered here, that would have been too early. When we look left from here, we're kind of at we are in an area that is serving as resistance. However, the drop wasn't that strong. Got a couple of bars here. It's a pretty fresh zone, but we can also see that the zone was invalidated, because if we draw the top of this zone here, we can see that it was invalidated here, and not with just a wick that was capturing liquidity. We've got a full candle close above the high. Okay, so that's also a clue that we may not be falling here. So location is really important. So if you have questions about location or about any of the things that we've talked about, be sure to leave a comment. Okay, so now that we've got all of our confluences here, we can take a screenshot of this picture and put it in our journal so that we can be reminded of it and we can study it so that we can continue to become the best trader that we can, the best version of ourselves. Trade mindfully.